of the Atheist Reformation. Joining me again today is my co-host, Harry. How you doing, Harry?
Doing good. Wake up early. Got to get the lead out.
Well, hey, good little intellectual exercise this morning before you go and help get people registered to vote some more. So where are you headed out to help people get registered today?
High Caliber Gun and Knife Show, George Brown Convention Center, downtown Houston. If you're in the area and you're not registered to vote, come out and see me there. I'll be there from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Got a little saying I came up with this week, which is if you uh, if you have an opinion about politics and you're not registered to vote, it's like being pro Second Amendment and not owning a gun. It's nice, but the government really doesn't care less about you.
Very true. All right, so today we're going to be going over a couple of different articles today. One with a bit more of a serious note. I came across an article on the Friendly Atheists Pathos blog talking about a GOP lawmaker saying that atheists are shoving ungodly, un-American views down our throats. That's Hemant Mehta. That came out a couple of days ago. We'll go over that here in a little while. And then the other one I think people are going to get a kick out of just because it's from Christian Broadcasting Network. And to give everybody kind of a sneak peek as to what hilarity might ensue from this, the title of the article is You Might Not Look at Trees the Same Way Again, Why a Former Atheist Believes They Point to God.
Okay.
So, I mean, and I figured we might as well get CBN, back involved in a few things since nobody really takes them seriously anymore.
Hey, I like I like CBN. I grew up with that stuff. I was eating my post toasties in the morning while listening to Pat Robertson talk about who he thought were dictators in other countries and all that stuff. So
Yeah, all while he was trying to set himself up as a little mini dictator of CBN.
yeah,
But there again, it's also CBN's fault that we have the 700 Club. So
that's like
maybe that's what's wrong with you. Is like you ate bland cereal as a child
while listening to
while listening to
this.
Pat Robertson. Ugh.
Yeah. Hey, 700 Club versus Mickey Mouse Club. Choose your brainwashing wisely.
How about Saturday morning cartoons?
I was
The good ones from the 90s, like Batman the Animated Series, X-Men the Animated Series, Darkwing freaking Duck, man. Come on.
you're talking about like a specific category of mid 90s cartoons. What happened after that was gone? The best we had was like brand spanking new Doug and Recess.
Recess wasn't bad. Doug was okay, I guess. It seems like it was I mean, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but it seems like Doug was more of a poor attempt at a Western style of slice of life anime.
I thought that Doug was like a animated version of uh the Wonder Years.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. Patty Mayonnaise, Doug. Yeah, I could kind of see that being an animated spin-off of the Wonder Years. Didn't use the same characters, but its structure was pretty much the same. But there again, you know, all television has become formulaic and has been formulaic for at least 3 or 4 decades.
Yep.
Probably even longer than that. I mean, you look at the 50s, 60s, and 70s. What is it all about? Westerns and cheesy sitcoms surrounding cars or cops.
And most plots are pretty much recycles of Shakespeare, at least in the West.
Yeah, that's true. But funnily enough, you're talking about recycled Shakespearean plots. One thing a friend of mine recently got me into was Sons of Anarchy, and yes, I have not actually watched Sons of Anarchy until December of 2019. Have never watched a single episode before now, and now I'm kind of invested in it, so I'm kind of binging my way through it as fast as I can. And I'm on season 4 now, and it's becoming quite clear to me that this is a really drawn out version of Hamlet.
Well, I looked at it as the Lion King and thought that Ron Perlman made a great Scar.
Yeah. Well, considering that Lion King is Hamlet with animals, yeah,
At least all the characters keep their manes.
I suppose. No, 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 no. Because they all go to jail at the end of season 3,
Yeah.
and Charlie Hunnam, Jax Teller has to have his hair cut or whatever. He comes out short shorn in the first episode of season 4.
So is Piney Rafiki?
Hmm, it's a
Because
good
I think
question.
Bobby and Otis,
Mm,
or whatever his name was, are Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, or Timon and
yeah.
Pumbaa.
No, no. Tig has to be one of either Rosencrantz or Guildenstern, just because he's nothing but comic relief.
I can see that.
I would say,
I was just saying with how close they are with Jax.
oh yeah, yeah. With how close they are with Jackson and all that, I would say, I would probably say Bobby is Rafiki because he takes on that kind. I think Rafiki's kind of split between Bobby and Piney a little bit. I would say.
Yeah.
Because Piney doesn't show up a whole lot, but when he does, it's generally profound. And then Bobby, when he actually does speak up, again, generally some at least minor level of profundity to it. Let's see. Who else? Who else could we ascribe as the characters in here? I mean, it's pretty obvious the Hamlet references because they keep referring to Jax Teller as the Prince.
I don't know if it actually happened in the show, but it seems like it should have happened. That there was a point where one of them was almost like, and this is Richard the Third, but a bike, my motorcycle club for a bike. I could see that being a line.
A horse, my kingdom for a horse. Wow. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. I mean, but if you're trying to compare it to the Lion King, where do the Mayans fit in?
The hyenas.
But the hyenas worked for Scar, and the Mayans don't start
What's
supporting Clay until like the end of season 3, and even then, it's after having tried to like murder his face for the last 2.5, 2 3/4 seasons, and even then, it's just a mild truce, not even not even working for one another.
well? I'll let you. I'm not gonna ruin anything.
No, no, please don't. Like I said, I'm in season 4, kind of just started that one. I'm like 3 episodes
What?
deep in that one. So I've still got the rest of that plus 5, 6, and 7. I think there's only 7 seasons.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
Mayans get their own show.
I don't know if I'm going to go that deep into it, if I'm going to jump into Mayans.
Yeah, I got the feeling Mayans is gonna be better. Like I haven't seen it, but whenever it comes out and it's free, because I'm not gonna watch it on TV because I don't have the time to schedule my life around that. But I got the feeling that it's going to be better because I think it's different writers who are building off of the mythos.
Hmm.
Probably going to actually do something that's unique and new instead of rehashing Shakespeare.
Yeah, maybe. But one thing that we will for sure probably never see out of that, out of the Sam Crow verse, uh, will be an entire series based around the Nords.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't even remember them.
They were the white supremacist group in the show.
Oh, interesting, because that's an article I sent you this week.
Really,
Yeah,
I I have to go back and I had to go back and look and see, look through our chat feed because I couldn't remember. Oh yes, yes, yes. From Army Times.
yeah,
Yes, we'll have to bring that one up too. Might as well, right?
yeah.
In fact, since we're talking about it, we might as well go ahead and start that one.
Should I jump on it or should you?
I'll go ahead and get the screen share going on it,
Okay.
and then I'll kind of let you give a brief synopsis over it.
Okay. Well, I'll try to make it as brief as possible. As
Oh,
I've said, I'm all for freedom of religion. I think that's important that everyone can kind of practice their individual faith in a way that they see fit, as long as it doesn't conflict with any of the basic standard expectations of being a generally acceptable human, and no human sacrifice or anything like that.
okay.
That's an extreme example, but I'll let the Supreme Court kind of decide what they've decided in the past, and I think that's pretty fair guidelines. All right, so there's a lesser known Nordic religion. It's a return to neo paganism almost.
Mm-hmm.
A sutra fellowship.
Asatru. Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the heathens, as they
Yeah,
refer to themselves. Yeah, yeah, I'm familiar with that. I think I had a
which
couple of friends that were like kind of leaning that way for a little while. Then they realized that it was kind of just as hokey as any other religion.
yeah, and I kind of respect the fact that Satru, like, they're cool with me as a Baptist calling them heathens, and they don't take offense to it,
No,
because
they
that
wear it as a
makes
badge of honor.
they're like, okay, cool. Anyway, once you learn more about it, there's definitely some groups, if not all of them, kind of have this exclusivity toward people of Nordic backgrounds or people who claim to have Nordic backgrounds. Obviously, no one is still a Viking, no one's a
Yeah,
pure walking around, but they they have that racial exclusivity, and at some points it goes as far as racial superiority. And there's been a couple of members of that religion that have been doxxed out by politically motivated activists, and the National Guard has kicked at least one out. I think they said there was two, but the second person described in the article I read was a prison guard. But there's been a couple of people who have lost their job for being a part of this religion, which is uh, it is a white supremacist organization, and one way of looking at it. So it's kind of an interesting thing about like how religion and being able to follow free religion, where does that conflict with social norms? I definitely get, you can't really be a member of the military if your alliances or allegiances are to something other than the Constitution.
right. And so looking at this, like I'm looking at the first couple of paragraphs here, is that the two men that were kicked out of Army National Guard, one was a Brandon Trent East. Now, for those who think that we might be doxing people here, this is a matter of public record. This is out of the Army Times. This is a widely spread internet publication. So they're named in there. They've already been doxed by Army Times as far as that goes.
And CNN and a whole bunch of others that covered this story. I picked the Army Times because I thought it would be the least.
It would be the
Uh,
closest to the original sourcing, essentially,
yeah,
because it would be focused on usually should be focused on the decisions, but it looks like this from Army Times is pulled from an Associated Press article. So this is most likely some kind of commentary or just a direct rip. And so this is Army Times slash AP. So it looks like earlier this year, Atlanta, Georgia anti-fascist group published a report saying that Brendan East and the other gentleman, Dalton Woodward, were leaders of the Norse pagan group called Raven's Blood Kindred, and that this is part of the Asatru folk assembly, uh, which researchers say endorses white supremacy. I'd like to know which researchers and to what degree are they saying they actually endorse white supremacy. Now, I wouldn't want white supremacy or really any racial supremacy supported by any community, but I've come to learn, unfortunately, is that news journalism and just media in general is largely about generating views, generating reads, generating subscriptions, and this, that, and the other. So I would hope that the sourcing is listed somewhere in here or is linked somewhere in this article. Um, Otherwise, that seems a bit disingenuous to not include the sourcing for that pretty bold assertion that's right there.
Yeah, in another article I read, it was Southern Poverty Law Center, and the reason why SPLC considers them is I don't know how much you follow uh, white supremacy in the news, but Identity Europa has been rebranded as American Identity,
Hmm.
and that group has started getting very close ties with this group, the Sutra Folk Organization.
Yeah,
I
see,
saw.
I remember when AFA like was first getting going, it was pretty much just on Facebook and things like that. It was when you started seeing the big push from Asatru and Odinism and things like that. And at first, it was just about it started as a meme, like what was it? Something about God or Jesus said they would take sin out of the world, and there's still sin or there's still bad things. Odin said he would wipe out the frost giants, and I don't see any frost giants walking around, so support Odin. Like, that's kind of how the whole thing started, at least to my knowledge. That's where I first encountered it. And
It goes back a little bit further, but it's more in when it goes back further. It and if anyone has any differences and they think that I'm wrong on this, you can tell me. But there's always been a strong link between it and prison gangs.
yes, well, no, not between it and prison gangs. From my experience with prison gangs, is that prison gangs, especially white supremacists, did have a tendency to use um, Viking and Norse runic letters and Norse symbols as membership tattoos, but it
Yeah,
never extended beyond just that superficial showing of it.
and I think that that's kind of what happened is a lot of modern neo pagan groups. The precedes the theology. It's like you see something that you think looks cool, and you start using the symbols of it, and
Yeah,
then you start to do like a modern reconstructionism off of this older religion, saying, "Well, if I'm going to wear it, I'm going to be authentic and know what I'm actually talking about." So
yeah.
I think a lot of the problems is because when we come down to it, the Vikings not really, at least my historical understanding, they weren't really about like racial superiority. They were just about we're just going to take everything.
Some were. Some groups were. Yes, some groups were all about raiding. But you don't get a religion built up just from pure going out doing the rape, pillage, and plunder routine. You've got to set up roots. You've got to have some level of core community that you go back to, and that's what started to become established over a longer period of time in that society. Now, there's also rumor going around. I'll have to go through and try and find the sourcing for it again, but that the Black Israelite movement
Mm.
seems to possibly be derivative of a prison clique and street gang uh, called the Gangster Disciples. One of the symbols that they've used for in there before was a GD in the center of a Star of David.
See,
And
I can
so
see
and
where
so like there like there's rumor going around that there might be some link there, at least just in the startup. Maybe not like rampant throughout it or anything, just that maybe one or two people got curious about things like that after seeing those Star of David tattoos and then went into that. But as with everything, just about everything when it comes to finding out how something really starts is generally based on blind luck and conjecture if you actually find the root cause of it.
the GD thing. I doubt has to do with the Gangster Disciples because in Judaism, certain sects of Judaism, it's uh, it's disrespectful to say the name of God, and so even when written down, they'll do like G-D.
Oh, no, no, no. This is just GD. It is a gangster disciple tattoo. This was actually part of my security threat group training when I went through TDCJ.
Oh, so the gangster disciples used to star David around the GD and not just the letters G and D.
Yes.
Oh, I was not aware of that. I didn't know they
Yep.
used that. Well, I'll have to look into that and see, but I that's the first I've ever heard of anything like that.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, that was a thing. And so looking through here, it seems that things do not really work too well in Easton Woodward's advantage here because, okay, yes, that shows that there are photos of these two individuals carrying signs at a speech in 2017 that was conducted by Richard Spencer at Auburn University, who is a known white nationalist. I mean, and so is arguably a white supremacist. He doesn't claim to be, but when you go through and you look at a lot of Richard Spencer's rhetoric, he's a white supremacist.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not a white supremacist. I just want for states to secede from the union and to create their whites only country.
Yeah, I know it's ridiculous.
It's
It's
like that's
like
the white nationalist white supremacist. What are you talking about?
I know it's yeah, both echo the so-called 14 words motto. Yeah, that's a big thing with Spencer and Spencer's group. Uh Talking about Hitler's 14 words and things like that. I
I'm
mean,
not trying to, I just want you to eat some poison. I'll mix it in your
yeah. It's just ridiculous. Okay, so I don't really get what he's just saying here, saying that he just went there because at the time I heard he was talking about the recent removal of Confederate monuments. He said that's something I
yes.
wanted to hear, and it turned into something a little worse, obviously. I don't know. I mean, we're not him, so he could be, being completely contrite about that and completely honest. But when you go through and you look at the sign that East is holding, saying the existence of our people is not negotiable, and Woodward's sign, we have a right to exist. Well, of course, I agree with the sign, we have a right to exist. If you're alive, okay, fine, you exist. Congratulations. Um, but it seems a little disingenuous. It seems as though he it reads as though
It's
he's trying to cover his tracks post hoc. It's like, oh crap, I got caught with this. I need to distance myself somehow.
and here's the thing about those signs that I have a problem with is people were a lot of times in the protests and things, and this is across all different groups. People were coming up with these truisms that you can't really argue on their face
Yeah.
value, but they have a contrapositive or another implication that is being made from it.
Yes.
Like if I were to say the statement that I, as an American, should not be stabbed by a gorilla or by a cat. Now I'm making the assumption or the statement that there are cats and gorillas out there that are running around trying to kill me.
Well, not just
Now,
that, it actually becomes when you say it the way you did, it actually becomes exclusionary. It makes it sound as though you as an American have the exclusive right to not be stabbed by a gorilla or a cat, and that someone say from I don't know,
America, yeah,
France, Romania, or Guatemala would somehow deserve to be stabbed by a gorilla or a cat. So I guess anyone who's not an American, watch out for knife wielding animals that aren't
exactly.
human.
And those are
Although
things
I guess
that
cats bring their own to the fight with those little Ginsu knives they keep in their paws.
yes, they do. But that's the thing is by saying I deserve the right to exist or my people deserve the right to exist. It's like, okay, who's attacking you? Like
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
with this
It implies that you're being attacked somehow. Now, if it was something that said, okay, if you said the existence of people is not negotiable, it would be like, well, yeah, of course it's not negotiable. People exist. So why are you holding up a sign?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the next possible question. And then it says we have a right to exist. Well, okay, but who is being included in that we, and who is not being included in that we? Because when you're attending a speech being given by Richard Spencer, who even in 2017 was widely known as a white nationalist and white supremacist, and you carry a sign that says we have a right to exist, that carries with it some really distinct connotations, and none of them were positive. None of them. So I'm sorry, Woodward had to have some kind of idea that holding up that sign at that speech would probably not go over too well if someone knew he was doing it. And I guess maybe he was banking on Spencer not going too far, or something. I don't know. But with them both echoing the 14 words motto,
Yeah.
that seems to again run completely counter to his statement of, "Oh, I just went because they were talking about the removal of Confederate monuments, and it turned into something a little worse." Okay, except you echo a lot of the same sentiments. So, exactly where are you drawing that line there, dude?
That's something that I just absolutely cannot stand on a personal level, is whenever someone tries to they try to sanitize their perspective into something that is they can tell everyone, but they apologize, or they fall back from anything that's controversial. If you have a controversial point of view, hold to it. Don't be a little wuss about it.
Yeah.
Don't back down and be like, oh, well, I don't really believe this stuff and this stuff. And it's like, well, then what do you believe? Like, if you're going to try to, you know,
Well, I mean,
I
there.
obviously don't believe in your values. If you can't be
I can
proud
agree.
about,
I can agree with that to a point. I can agree with that to a point. However, I mean, myself personally, I I've been accused at times of being philosophically wishy-washy, and it's not that I'm deliberately trying to be wishy-washy or that I'm trying to sanitize what I agree with or what I hold to. It's more I read into something, and the more I read into it, I find some things that I agree with and some things that I disagree with. And so in my uh I guess Humean slash Dillahuntian version of myself attempting to believe as many true things and eschew as many false things as possible, I pick and choose things from certain philosophical standpoints because some things make sense and I agree with, and other things don't really make sense.
right. But if there's a belief that we know that you have,
Hmm.
and like if I were to call you out and be like, if I were to say, do you believe that God exists? Your answer would be,
No, I don't.
and that's what I'm talking about. That's a value, a belief that you have. What I have a problem with is if I ask you that question, you're like, well, I'm not necessarily saying that. And then it's like,
And see, here's where I'm gonna say, not necessarily, because I'm very particular in my wording of things.
yeah,
Because I want people to understand what I'm saying. I want people to understand what my particular point about the topic is. And my particular point about the existence of God is I don't I don't believe that a God exists, but I'm not going to go so far as to say that I believe whole hog that no God exists. I'm not going to claim I know that a God doesn't exist because you can't prove a negative. To me, that's intellectually dishonest. So I adhere to what most people refer to from in like the deep philosophy groups call it as weak atheism, is that I lack belief in God. I reject the assertion that a God exists absent evidence.
what I see as a big problem right now is you have different kinds of fear. You have people who are afraid to act, people who are, whenever something scary happens, they don't know how to act. They're overwhelmed. And then you've got it's not even emotional, it's not even mental. It's like cowardice in your soul. This
Okay.
identifying cowardice where you can't stand up for what you believe and you can't say what you honestly think is the case. And that's what I see as the problem here, is that these groups, they won't just say what it is that they honestly believe and allow a open discussion, honest confrontation of ideologies to happen. They'll play whack-a-mole
Hmm.
and run in circles, and then at the end of the day you end up with, you know, groups that are against them trying to call them out but not knowing their specific wording and how they phrase things, so they're
Yeah.
not able to have that specified ideological conversation because one group's trying to control the verbiage and all the dictionary of terms. And then you've got groups saying, well, if we don't know exactly what they're saying, then maybe we should just kind of leave them alone. And and at the end of the day, everyone's hiding and smoking in shadows.
Right. And see, that's a really big problem that most atheists, myself included, have with these modern day apologists. A lot of apologists nowadays will either refuse to debate if definitions are demanded, and definitions are demanded to be adhered to for the purposes of discussion, because especially when it comes to talks about evolution and things like that,
Yeah.
in no uncertain terms, evolution is simply that on a population level, organisms, life itself changes over time.
I'm getting a little bit of pop and feedback right now. Is it an internet connection?
No, my internet connection should be perfectly fine. I mean,
Okay.
there is some storming going on around here locally, but Suddenlink is usually pretty good, and I try to be a good steward of my YouTube channel, and I'm running this all on a computer that is probably overqualified for this task, as well as being direct Ethernet connected.
Right.
So perhaps when I may have raised my voice a little bit or dropped into chest tone a bit and overloaded my microphone. It is a cheap little $30 Neewer mic. So this is just a cheap little USB condenser microphone. It's nothing fancy. So I could just be overloading my own equipment. But no,
Sorry about.
but anyway, evolution is simply that organisms change over time. Life changes over time. That's it. And people can't seem to agree to that. Or when we try to talk to a young earth creationist that believes in specially created kinds. Okay, what is a kind? They can't seem to draw a line. It's like we can sit there and show them, it's like, okay, here is the Linnaean column of classification here. Where in this section, where in this setup would kind fall? Is it between one of these two classifications? Is it the bottom of one and the top of another, or is it just one? Like, is it on the genus level, the species level? What is a created kind? But all we ever get is people like Kent Hovind saying, well, you've never seen a dog produce a non dog. Like, okay, fantastic. If a dog ever suddenly produced a non dog, that would violate the principles of evolution, in particular the law of monophyly, and that you cannot outgrow your ancestry. You can become evolutionarily distinct from your ancestry, but you are still your ancestry, and you'll never escape it. Like what we were talking about, I think last week or the week before, about Ray Comfort and Kirk Cameron's Crocoduck. If that were to happen, that
Yeah.
would be resounding evidence against evolution. But anyway, going back,
And
go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say, from like an evangelical perspective, it basically boils down to the biblical guideline for creation. Even in a more liberal understanding is that there is a distinct difference in when these things were made. So, birds are made on different days than fish. Animals were made on different days, like land animals were made on a different days than either. And then humans were made on yet a different day. And that's the part that if if as a creationist, which I do believe, because I'm not going to run from my beliefs,
Hmm.
I'm proud of them. I'm happy with what I believe to be true, but I
Okay.
do understand it's not science. Since I believe that land animals and uh, fish and birds were made on different days, it's very hard for me without overwhelming evidence that makes sense to me to see a fish and a cat have the same ancestor. Like, where did that split happen? If I can't see it, it's hard for me to accept it. And
Well,
please don't.
the split would have happened several hundreds of millions of years ago, because fish, as of right now, is actually slowly but surely being done away with as a classification of animal, because it is so nebulous. It doesn't actually have any distinct characteristics within it that describe that.
Yeah.
And so they're being lumped in as, and so what they're now lumped in as chordata, meaning that they are chordate animals. They have a spinal cord that is contained within a spinal column. And so that's something that is very much shared between what we colloquially refer to as fish and cats, or what are referred to as feliforms. In fact, felines and canines are derived from even earlier mammals, like cats and dogs are related.
I mean, that's type of stuff isn't typically as abrasive. Like that one I can kind of be okay with, but when we start talking about like, oh, well, a cow and a bald eagle have the same ancestor, I'm like, yeah, and Peter Parker got bit by a radioactive spider and he can shoot, you know, and now he can climb walls. Like it's the same kind of logical. I understand what you're saying,
Hmm.
but I don't accept it as reality, no matter how much verbiage you use, because it doesn't seem real to me and it's hard for me to accept.
Oh, I'll even
Like,
go. I'll even go one further and make it really hard for you to accept, um, because Kent Hovind brought this up at one point. A blue whale and a pine tree are related because
and
because they're both eukaryotes.
when we say related, does it actually mean that they're like to the millionth power cousins from each other, or does it just mean that life has general similarities? Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to survive in a nitrogen rich, oxygen fueled, carbon based world.
Yes.
And if that's the case, then that doesn't actually mean that you're related. That just means that
No, it
you're,
means that you share. It means that you share common ancestry.
well, it means you
From
share
evo-
common
from
traits.
No, you share common ancestry, because like we've found it down to DNA markers. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I really want you to go watch R and Ra's video series, Systematic Classification of Life, because they're all short form videos. Most of them are less than 10 minutes in length, and it's designed to be a science education primer for middle and high school students.
All
And
right.
so
So,
it breaks it down. He starts at the very you know start, and he's primarily going from eukarya down to human. So he's specifically looking for humans by the end of it, and so that's
if,
what he seeks to show, and that's what he's
yeah.
explaining. And so I really do encourage you to check it out and start watching it. There's like 40 something videos. They're usually pretty short, but watch them like 3 or 4 at a time, because it'll
He's a
explain a
much
lot of
better.
things, and I think it'll answer a lot of questions that you have. Because he'll be better at doing that than I am, because he has a greater educational background in biology than I do.
So based upon that supposition, if we were to go to, let's say, Mars, and we found single-celled bacteria there, and
Okay.
we looked at the DNA, saw that it shared certain markers in common with anything on Earth.
Okay.
For simplicity, let's say amoebas.
Okay.
It found common markers in relation. Would we then suppose that they had a common ancestor because they
Yes,
shared traits?
we would most likely suppose, at least initially, that there may be some common ancestry there, and so we would be looking to find it. In fact, if we found something like that, that would actually go towards uh, supporting the hypothesis of panspermia, in that life propagated on this planet due to extremophiles surviving an asteroid impact from
Okay.
some other planet or from some other region of space. At which point, that would be a pretty cool thing, in all honesty, because it would give us something to look for, and also provide evidence supporting that there should be life beyond what's on just our little blue marble. I
Okay.
mean, because oh, I think Douglas Adams said this.
Your download speeds are good, but your upload speeds all right.
Uh, yeah, my upload speed is 40 megabits per second.
Okay.
So I shouldn't be having trouble with this. I don't have anything else running either. Just a couple of Chrome tabs, and I've got no
Yeah.
background programs running. Let's see.
This may be just getting too much for my phone to process.
Maybe.
I wiggled the charge cable and now it seems to be working better.
Okay. Hey, if it doesn't work, turn it off and turn it back on again and see if that works, I suppose. All right, so let's go ahead and move away from the two white supremacists getting kicked out of the National Guard, because that's a pretty short article,
Good for
and
them.
yeah, and so I guess we'll go, since we're in the vein of that one. Let's go ahead and take a look at the, what is it? Yes. Hemant Mehta's GOP lawmaker, atheists are shoving ungodly, un American views down our throats. This ought to be an interesting read. So apparently, this is mostly referring to the aftermath of a baptism being hosted for students on school property in Notasulga, Alabama. Looks like it was the head coach of the football team.
I like how you said aftermath, like there's a lot of people that got massacred or something in this baptism. Like,
No, no, no. Just the aftermath, is in, like, after this has already happened.
yeah,
And in all honesty, situations like this, yeah, are gonna create a decent amount of buzz, especially once it starts catching mainstream catching mainstream fame, as it were. So looks like here the Freedom from Religion Foundation wrote a letter to the administrators at Reeltown High School. Man, that sounds like a fake high school at this point.
real town high school
You
where
know, it sounds fake. But there again, it's in Alabama, so I can't really. I guess we shouldn't expect originality all that much, but hey. Anyway, and its district urging them to put a stop to this before a lawsuit has to settle the matter for them. Was the appropriate move, since this was obviously a promotion of Christianity by taxpayer-funded officials. Um, yeah, I mean that's pretty clear. If you have I mean, if you have school staff that are hosting a baptism for students on school property, yeah, that's a First Amendment issue. That's that's a state funded school, essentially state employees uh, endorsing one religion over others in state fashion.
I would have a couple of questions about this. The first one I would say is, when
My
did this
first,
happen?
in all honesty, my first question is: are they baptizing people in Gatorade? I mean, look at the water in that basin, dude.
It's Alabama. You know their water's not that good.
I mean, but still, it's like I swear that looks like Gatorade, man.
It might be. It was the football team.
This is also true, but at the same time,
If
I
y'all
like
win this,
blue Gatorade. That's a waste, man.
they all drank it afterward. Does that make you feel better?
No, that really doesn't. In fact, that would make me feel worse. Because all it would take is one person to have not showered the night before and, take a dunk in the Gatorade bath and oh man, that's just no. That's
And it would still probably be the least toxic thing in that educational system.
ah again, this is the Alabama educational system, so you might be
I have
right.
no hope of running for office if I keep making jokes like this.
Well, this will be forever immortalized on YouTube, my
I'm
friend.
gonna run for president, and Alabama is gonna be angry with me and not show up to vote against me. There I go again.
You're assuming they pay attention.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, my question is: there's a couple of things that I don't want to say I'm jumping to the guy's defense, but I am going to play that role because otherwise this would be a really boring show.
Right, of course. Play devil's advocate.
Hey, now, poor choice of wording.
Oh no, I think it was a brilliant choice of wording.
All
Besides, it
right.
was a
So,
great Keanu Reeves movie. Anyways, continue on.
yeah. Okay. So, the timing of this, if this was like Monday through Friday during school hours, I could definitely see that being an endorsement. If this was at a football practice or a game or some other like school sanctioned event, I can definitely see how that would be an issue. So I would need to know that and some more facts to the case before I was able to agree that this guy did something wrong.
Okay,
Now,
well, let's see.
here's the other aspect to it. If we got to look at, in a lot of poor school or poor towns, the school is the epicenter of civic life. In the old days, when they built a city school, it was also where you would have any kind of public function. You might hold your Sunday school there. Your churches might rent out the rooms. Um, that would be where you had your voting. You would have a lot of different things that you would use those cafeterias for, because they were basically built for general use for the public. It was the only meeting area. So I don't know if real town is small enough that that's still a thing there. But I know that where I went to school, the public was welcome to use some of the fields for events, like to practice, city sports, soccer, things that are not really related to the school. They would just use the property, and that was okay as long as they abided by the rules of, no drugs or alcohol.
Well, see, looking at the link to one of the original articles, this also came from Hemant Mehta. This is from December 19th. Yeah, this is also not the first time that a public high school football team is engaged in this by
Yeah.
hosting a baptism for players. So it seems as though this is actually more towards this was a football practice. And then we also have a quote here from and a staff attorney, Chris Line of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, says courts have consistently held it is illegal for a public school to organize, sponsor, or lead at a religious activity at public high school athletic events such as a football practice. Then it
So the
go
school or an employee of the school?
an employee of the school, it's the same thing. I mean, if the football practice is going on and the head football coach is doing it at the
Yeah.
football practice, that's pretty inescapable right there.
I could concede to that. Yeah, that doesn't seem appropriate. That's the school function. You get a grade for participation, and yeah, that's
Exactly.
right.
So, and this article was posted on December 19th. So this would have happened prior to December 19th, which means this was during the semester. So this is not like during Christmas break or anything like that. So this
Yeah.
is this is during the prime school session. So in Lee versus Wiseman, 1992, Supreme Court extended the prohibition of school-sponsored religious activities beyond the classroom to all school functions, holding prayers at public high school graduations, and impermissible establishment of religion. As school-sponsored activities, football team events cannot include any endorsement of religion or religious rituals. So no, it's again, Meta wraps it up not quite nicely. It isn't complicated. Save the religious rituals for church or home,
But everyone still does it if it's student led.
and it shouldn't be, because to me that seems as though it in and of itself is an act of endorsement.
I mean, that's just how things
I mean,
currently
now if
are.
you have a student led group and it's a group at school and it's an after school thing, okay, you're just allowing a public venue for a group. You're not endorsing one over the other. And I would say if you're not barring someone else from starting a different group.
So, but I mean, like at graduation, they'll still have a student lead a prayer, and at a lot of
Mm,
football as well, student led. It's not a member of faculty.
right. It's them trying to flout the law. It's them trying to flout a court decision
Yeah.
generally. And that I have an issue with. I mean, I didn't have an issue with it when I graduated high school because I was still a theist at that point. But nowadays it's like, okay, I have family that's religious. I still love them. They're still my family. They don't. They're not obnoxious towards me. I'm not obnoxious towards them. We don't really talk about it, um, and they don't even really say anything to me when I just stand there looking around the room when they start doing the group prayer over whatever meal the family's gathered around for. I just sit there and look around. It's like I don't
Yeah.
believe I'm not going to participate in the ritual. Uh, I mean,
I think that you not have to
it,
participate. I would have a problem if someone tried to force you to.
yeah. That's kind of how things went with some of my ex family in law, but that's neither here nor there. But looking further into this, the core article that we brought up from Friendly Atheist Patheos blog. Um, okay, skipping over the hardly a shock. One of the critics is Representative Bradley Byrne, a Republican who represents Alabama in the U.S. House of Representatives and is gunning for the Senate seat that is currently held by Democrat Doug Jones. So instead of acknowledging the constitutional violation, he apparently issued a nasty statement against the attorneys defending the Establishment Clause before praising the coach for pushing Christianity on the kids. And in fact, we can read the tweet from Bradley Byrne here. He says, I am sick of these groups trying to tell us that we aren't allowed to live out our faith. The Freedom from Religion Foundation needs to pack it up and stop forcing their ungodly, un American views down our throats. The foundation says they want separation of church and state, but what they really want is to rip God out of our nation altogether. I'm thankful for leaders like Coach Johnson who are doing the right thing and serving as positive role models to our young people. Okay,
Well,
that's pretty blatant. I mean, that's really pretty blatant.
let's call it what it is. That's pandering. That's I want to go for a Senate position, so I'm going to make like outrage so
Yeah,
that
I
people.
mean,
Yeah.
I'll grant that it probably is just about generating outrage. I'll give you that. that's not really that's not really a controversial thing there. Um, but he apparently doubles down later on by adding, helping a person to know Christ should be praised, not attacked. And so, I mean, but what he's doing there, even though it's supposed to be about outrage and all that, I mean, yeah, he's lying. There's nobody preventing the Christians from practicing their faith. The issue right here, yeah, like what he says, is pressuring students to adopt it, which is what courts have repeatedly said is going on when a coach or teacher encourages kids to get baptized while on the clock.
Okay, so now I have a question. When we say the words on the clock, how do we define that? Because most teachers are paid a salary. They don't clock in and they don't clock out. So to me, that would say if you're acting in the capacity of the school district, like you're at a practice, you're at a school function, you're in the classroom,
Yeah,
then I see that. But if it's your free time and it's not a practice,
then
then
it shouldn't be done on school property at that point. If you're a
it makes
coach, if you're a coach and you're encouraging your students to attend, and your only notable relationship with these individuals is the fact that you are their football coach, and otherwise they probably wouldn't know you or probably wouldn't have anything to do with you, it creates a pretty arguable gray area there. But I'm willing to bet that this town has other public venues that this could have been done at. They could have done this in somebody's backyard. They could have done this at a park. They didn't have to do it at the school, and they didn't have to do it based on this picture
in
at
Gatorade.
what appears to be at the 50-yard line of their practice field or their main field, because that's the main.
Now,
Uh,
I think that's just a poor choice because it should have been in the end zone. Because touchdown, Jesus.
wow. And crappy joke of the day goes to Harry Taylor.
I've had a lot of really bad jokes today.
Yeah. Okay, so we're getting some activity in the comment section. It looks
Yes.
it, uh, oh no, it's basically just someone crapping on me for being an atheist. Some dude,
Yeah.
it's called "It Hurts When I Pee on Your Mom." Says if you don't have faith in a higher power, have faith in a decent diet. The fork is your devil. Drop the darkness and carbs. Gee, thanks.
I
Yes, I'm fat. Okay, whoop de doo. Country was founded on faith. If you don't like it, drink bleach.
yeah. Hey, no, none of that. None of that. People should kill themselves. That's not okay.
Yeah, no, number one, yeah, not at all. Um, I mean,
God doesn't like
but
the
if we're
unsaved.
gonna talk about drinking bleach, how about we talk about the miracle mineral solution cults that are founded entirely on faith? And oh, what's MMS? That's right, it's an industrial bleach. That doesn't
I
really
don't.
help you there, buddy.
I don't
Um,
know about with
There are,
that.
then he says there are only two genders in MAGA country. Make America great again country. That that statement just no.
I,
You need
I'm not.
English. You need English better. Um
But
there are
hey,
only
if you're
there
not registered to vote, come out and see me today.
Yeah, sure. Go register to vote. There are only two genders. Eh, gender is a wishy-washy and nebulous term. Now, if he had said there are only two biological sexes, well, if you're looking at things from an ability to reproduce, then yes, and I wouldn't
This is
disagree with that.
about like different word use because in the day when we grew up, like going to school and going back 100 years, gender and sex were basically interchangeable terms. That's how they were taught to us. They meant the same thing. And
Yeah,
within the past 15, 20 years,
I'd say the
it's
past
become,
30.
well, in terms of public knowledge,
Yeah, about
yes, going
30.
back to look at the schools of sociology, but recently it's been publicly accepted that gender and sex are referring to your social traits and that would be your gender, basically the role that you take in society, and then your physical genitalia would, or your DNA would determine your physical sex. And there are some cultures where traits that we consider to be masculine or male are flipped, and you have women who take on the male role in that society. Now it's like these, Polynesian islands or islands off the coast of, Australia,
Hmm.
where this is very clearly seen. But it's very rare in the West that this ever happens. Typically, the one that gives birth stays at home with the kids. But there are other cultures where the one that gives birth drops the kid off with the dad like a seahorse and goes out there and hunts and gathers and is in the military, and the dad stays home and like braids the hair and cooks the food.
Yeah,
There are cultures that are like that. It's just kind of rare.
true.
So
But
the word male
to
and
avoid
female in
getting
that.
too, I'm going to say let's avoid getting too deep in the weeds on that one because that one could be a topic all on its own for another time. But one thing I am going to go back to is his initial his initial comment of if you don't have faith in a higher power, have faith in a decent diet. No, faith at its core is belief without evidence. I'm on a diet. I've lost weight. I have evidence that the diet is working. So I don't need
Bam.
faith. I don't need faith in the diet. Okay, the fork is my devil. Hmm, I don't know, possibly. But I'll go with at this point, based on what you're flouting thus far, is that ignorance is your devil. So drop the blinders and pick up a book.
Well, here's one.
What
Jesus
would be my
said that
retort to that?
his death, and whenever that fig tree didn't give any figs, it got killed.
Yeah, so we're going to use divine smiting on a fig tree because you're pissed because it didn't produce in the off season.
Well, I don't know if it was the off season, but I have faith in diets and I don't follow them because fast food is quick and easy.
Mm, mm. I prefer to
Just
cook it. I prefer to cook at home. In all honesty, um, this dude doesn't know me, and I'm not going to get into my personal history uh, on it too deep. Just know that most of my weight gain was due to an injury, and then continuing to eat an athletic diet because that's what I was used to. Just a high calorie diet with a lot less activity, and so that got me in the position that I am today. And now I'm working to correct it. It is what it is.
but all the hate comments, they just make me feel so good.
Oh, I know. I feed off them. Please give me more hate. It fuels me. Or as Palpatine says, let the hate flow through you.
I'm just glad that people actually wake up at 8 a.m. on a Sunday to watch us.
Hey, I know, right? Although, judging by the fact that I'm not showing any live viewers, I'm pretty sure this dude was. I mean, he hung around for at least 5 minutes, it looks like. So he didn't just do post and drop. So tuned in at 8:07, tuned out at about 8:12. I guess he wanted MAGA country to be his big send off, but that just didn't work. That uh, that one just fell flat like a raw egg off the Empire State Building. But going through here, yeah, I agree. Coach Matt Johnson did not do the right thing. He screwed up, and he should apologize to the students and the public at large. The district should also apologize for not stopping him earlier. Okay, that's covered there. Yeah. I mean, if the coach served as a youth pastor and converted kids who attended his church, this would not be a legal issue. He did it in a position of authority in a way that pressures kids into going along with it in the form of it's their coach at a football practice.
Right.
So, and okay, I kind of have to agree this one with the fact that yes, Brad Byrne
So
went
said there was
so far out of
right.
left field that he's attacking an attorney uh for trying to make sure the establishment clause is upheld. Says it's never good when someone who's sworn an oath to defend the Constitution can't even be bothered to understand its basics. But what do you expect from a guy who belongs? Okay, no, that's I don't like this last one. Says, but what else do you expect from a guy who belongs to the party that thinks alleged pedophile Roy Moore is a solid candidate for public office? Okay, so that meta, that's poisoning the well. I'm sorry, that's a red herring. You're trying to say because of this, therefore because of that, and that's not how that works. I'm sorry. Yes,
By the way,
if
can I?
Roy Moore is a pedophile, he should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The people should he be elected to public office? No, I don't think he should. But at the same time, if that's the people chose to elect, and that's the people chose to elect, and that's an indictment of that community, not necessarily the Republican Party.
Well,
So yeah,
let me tell you how that translates to an evangelical Christian. That last sentence, as soon as we hear that, our response is, we hate pedophiles. You're wrong. We need to bring back prayer into schools, and we need to vote MAGA 2020. That's what happens when you make this about politics in the last
yeah,
sentence. You've just alienated anyone you were trying to build a bridge to.
exactly. I completely agree. You need to not alienate people, man. Uh, but that's just unfortunately how it goes sometimes. I don't see, I just don't get why people would rather alienate than try to bridge build. But
Because journalism is
yeah,
not.
because journalism, I mean, if you want to be popular, you have to, we've established that you have to be at least somewhat acerbic to people. You have to be rude to people here and there. You have to take a stand and defend it to the end, and yada 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 yada. I'm sorry. I much prefer the middle of the road journalism of the Associated Press and Thomson Reuters.
You mean people that actually take their job as journalists seriously?
Yeah, yeah, those.
They're just trying to get likes on and shares.
Yeah,
Like most.
exactly. I mean, now granted, I will sometimes watch MSLSD if I need a good chuckle. Uh, and sometimes I'll watch Fox News in an effort to receive a good chuckle. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I watch Daily Wire on occasion because, man, Ben Shapiro talks fast, but he's got some pretty witty one-liners in there.
My favorite thing to do is to get an article about a topic from Huffington Post, and then the same article about the same topic from Breitbart, and scroll through them
Oh,
at the same speed and see if
gosh.
air.
Oh, no, see, the only way that could get any better is if you took like an AP article covering the same topic and put that right in the middle and scroll through all three at the same time so you can watch the extreme left perspective, the extreme right perspective, and then the mostly centrist, just, you know, uh, Detective Friday, just the facts, ma'am version. Because, yeah, I would much prefer that. And, Meta does such a good job up until that last, that last sentence. And it's
Yeah.
like, man, you should have just stopped there. Like, I mean, I would have just stopped at it's never good when someone who's sworn an oath to defend the Constitution can't even be bothered to understand its basics. And then full stop.
Yeah.
There was no reason to bring the Roy Moore issue back into it because that's beating a horse that's been dead for so long. You're worried that it's going to explode.
But what more do you expect from a writer that's a failed stand-up comedian? Zinger.
Wow. Wait, is him out meta?
No,
I was
I'm
going to
just
say,
making a gross assumption.
yeah, yeah, a gross assumption based on no
To
evidence.
the,
Yeah.
all right, so what's our last article of the day? Because I
So
think
our last article,
we've beat that Roy Moore.
yeah. So our last article of the day, and we're going to go for the little bit of lightheartedness, because we got to have some fun every once in a while. You might not look at trees the same way again. Why a former atheist believes they point to God by Mark Martin. This also came out on the 27th. So let's just go ahead and read through this. We're going to give us a dry read to some extent. When you think about trees, your mind probably goes to the natural world. I mean, my brain is in the natural world, so how I'm not sure I can go somewhere that I'm already at. But but one author says there's much more than what your eye sees. Okay. I mean, that sentence, I'm sorry, I've already failed at the dry read here because of what popped into my head. It almost seems like a religious Transformers reference more than meets the eye.
It is.
I mean, come on. Ah,
You
trees
do
have a
know that versus a giant religious metaphor, right?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so is Star Wars.
Eh,
No, I mean
maybe.
like so is Star Wars. Uh Luke Skywalker was supposed to be the Jesus character.
I mean, he's kind of also the man with no name from the spaghetti westerns
Ah, true, true, true.
because it's a spaghetti western in space.
Yeah, to an extent. It's a space western. Yeah. So anyway, trees have a deep spiritual significance and help explain the nature of God.
The nature, I like that pun.
Okay. So Dr. Matthew Sleeth reads from a book he's written on the topic. Other than God and people, the Bible mentions trees more than any other living thing. Okay. I'm
So,
not sure how that's an argument. Sleeth is
oh, but
passionate about trees, but it's more than an appreciation for their beauty or a love for the great outdoors. I would hope so. The former atheist and emergency room physician. Okay, stop. I'm already kind of like, why are we even talking about? Why is this guy even talking about it? It's like I'm perfectly content with accepting that a layperson can learn about a topic. I mean, I self teach myself things about philosophy. I go through on Skillshare. I go through on Great Courses Plus to try and learn and broaden my horizons. But to start a conversation about trees and you want to try and bank on the supposed authority of the guy being an ER doc.
I don't think he's coming at this from a scientific perspective, though. Like I read through the
I don't
article.
know. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't know. It's like when the whole Ken Ham and Bill Nye debate thing happened, and Ken Ham was bringing up all these different young Earth creationists. Um, you know, you I don't remember seeing any biologists on that list. I don't remember seeing a single geologist on that list. I saw engineers, of which there were two or three of those, and an astronomer. So that's a pretty notable gap there to me. All right, so says that the trees in the Bible reflect the character of God. Okay. I went to the Bible, which is how I met the Lord. I read a Bible, and I went back to that Bible, read from Genesis to Revelation to see what God had to say. Okay. Ever since that time, I've known that God has an incredible fondness for trees. Does he? I don't know.
Except for the big tree he killed.
Eh,
You like
yeah,
that callback?
apparently that fondness doesn't extend to fig trees. I mean, but some people refer to fig trees as just overgrown bushes too. So I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of delineation between a tree and a bush that he just cannot stand.
Well, it would explain the self-immolation via Bush.
True. Sleeth believes God uses trees as a metaphor to help point people to himself and his son, Jesus Christ. Okay. Trees are always giving, and Christ is always giving, always offering us life. And again, God wouldn't choose a bad metaphor. Okay, I have to stop here. Trees are always giving. They're not always giving good things, like the manchineal tree. If you think it's giving and you think it's a good type of giving, then go stand under it under a rainstorm and see how that goes for you.
I feel like Shel Silverstein is personally attacked by your comments right now.
Or if you think that trees are always giving and trees are always giving in a good way, grab a gimpy leaf and wipe it on your skin. Make sure to really express those natural oils on there. See how that goes for you. I just this is a bad metaphor. I'm sorry. It's a bad metaphor.
So at the end,
So
like he's not really saying that, he's not using like the golden ratio and saying if you look at the veins in the leaves, it literally shows that
at
there's an
least he's
intelligence.
no, at least he's not going that far. But still, I mean, it's this disingenuous. Trees are always giving, and Christ are always giving, always offering us life. Lots of trees are offering you death.
This is like tree soup for the soul. He wrote a book about like a feel good thing about like I like trees and you like trees and let's enjoy trees together as a meditation on.
Then I'm sorry, John Denver did it first and better. And I don't even like John Denver.
You said that and my cat just went. "Meow."
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is just, oh my gosh, this dude is okay. If this is supposed to be like a tree version of chicken soup for the soul, I'm pretty sure that this is just the Campbell's version, and they forgot to put the desiccated chicken in the can.
I
It's
think
bland
this
and
book
tasteless.
is like 19th century British meditation poetry. If you're familiar with that, they did a lot of like looking to nature and identifying traits, and then they would contemplate upon their relationship with God, like in the quasi-romantic era.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
like Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson, but they were American. But yeah,
yeah. Well, the British ones were more explicitly, uh,
religious.
yeah, religious because it was usually written by preachers.
Yeah, Anglican
It's
priests.
like this is basically that kind of thing, only the poetry is not so much there, so it's written more as a prose.
Yeah. I love the metaphor of his wife Nancy agrees, apparently. I love the whole metaphor of trees. Trees give us life. We know that they're giving off oxygen all the time. Okay?
And really inspiring about this story is that his wife is supportive of his metaphor. And that's what we need more of now.
I mean, yeah, okay. I'm happy that the dude has a supportive family. But if you're talking about trees giving us life, we know that they're giving off oxygen all the time, this, that, and the other. Um, okay, then why do you support us? I would ask, like, okay, do you support us cutting down a lot more trees to print more Bibles?
Maybe to print more of his books. And that's what he's getting from the tree is paid from that book money.
Then she says, "Well, God gives us life. He is the author of life, the sustainer of life." Picked the perfect metaphor for sharing what the abundant life is. I'm not seeing that. I'm sorry. No, I don't see that at all. Uh, of course, Dr. Sleeth opens chapter 1 of his book with a passage from Psalm 1, which talks about the person who delights in the law of the Lord. It reads, "They are like trees planted by streams of water, with which yield their fruit in its season, and their leaves do not wither. In all that they do, they prosper." Saying that they also reflect eternity. When he picks a tree, he picks the longest lived thing on the planet. So wait, Is he a young Earth creationist? Is he an old Earth creationist? Is like, I mean, I have some questions now.
I don't have any questions because I look at the facts, and the facts are Amazon's got 3-day delivery. And when was this article written?
December 27th.
Never mind. That's after Christmas. I was thinking maybe it was like, hey, if you hadn't bought your Christmas gifts yet and you want to buy a book that no one will ever read, but you know someone likes trees, you should totally check out this.
Yeah, his book Reforesting Faith.
That's a
Oh
good time.
my, that no, that is a cheesy title. I
It's
mean,
cheesy, good.
yeah. I mean, granted. I mean, it's a cheesy title, but there again, I'm a sucker for some cheesy titles. Like, I just recently got a hold of, pardon me, Doctor Robert Price's new book, Jesus Christ Superstition. Like
That's
a really obvious play off of Jesus Christ Superstar.
yeah.
I love it. Like it's hilarious.
I mean, I like puns and dad jokes, so I
He
mean,
does he does a lot of those. Like when he talks about the Pauline letters and the Apostle Paul, one of his colloquial references to him is called the Colossal Apostle, which makes him sound like a pretty epic pro wrestler.
it does, and it's also considering the statue built to the god that is not yet to be named. So it reminds you of like the Greek Colossus.
Yeah, the Colossus of Rhodes.
Yeah.
I find that kind of stuff pretty awesome. Like that's funny to me. Um,
It's accurate. Like the
it
colossal apostle,
is.
that's accurate because most of I wouldn't say yeah, maybe most of modern Protestant theology in America built itself off of the Pauline letters.
Yeah.
There's a lot of focus of just after the gospel,
Hmm.
the gospels.
Then he goes on to talking about that he hopes that the book Reforesting Faith will be an evangelistic tool to lead the next generation to Jesus Christ. Keeps going on. Okay, and now we come to trying a bit of equivocation. There's a tree expert here in my area who's a Fulbright scholar, double PhD, head of a department about this, completely hostile to Christianity. And I sat down and reviewed this with him, and I don't believe it's that. I think it's the Holy Spirit, but he's a Christian today. I I'm sorry, I see way too much of this crap in like he doesn't drop a name. Tree expert in my area who's a Fulbright scholar, double PhD, head of a department about this. But is he about this? What is the this he's referring to? Is he referring to trees? Is he referring to this guy's book? I mean, I'm sorry, I don't see this. I If a person is a scientific scholar about trees, I don't see how this evangelistic book talking about a metaphor in the Bible is going to convince someone of that. I don't see that being convincing. I I'm sorry, there's too much of this crap that floats around for me to take this statement seriously at all.
Isn't it kind
Because
of like when you're pulling a expert in one area and asking their opinion on something else? Like, what's the Mitch Hedberg joke about people that saw his stand up and they were like, "Yeah, you do a really good job. Can you write us a TV show?" And he's like, "That's kind of like asking someone, "Hey, you're a really good chef, but can you farm?"
exactly. I mean, it's the dumbest thing.
You're
That's
a tree expert. What do you think about poetry?
right. I mean, what the crap? I mean, really, it's like you're a poetry expert. What do you think about theoretical physics?
I know you went to law school, but does this look infected?
Yeah, it's like I'm not that kind of doctor. It's this is like really dumb. It's like they latch on. It's like, well, the guy is smart. Okay, that's awesome. Good for that guy. But you just say they're a Fulbright scholar with a double PhD, and then you claim they're a tree expert. What is their double PhD in?
This would be
What was this individual named a Fulbright scholar for? You can't just say this blatant crap and expect it to be moving towards anyone except someone who already believes.
it's
It,
I
it,
don't think to convince anyone of anything. I think it's just a feel good story, like a feel good book, and this is basically an elaborate advertisement for the book. It'd be like
basically what this is, and I'm going to call it what it is. This is mental masturbation, is what this is.
I could see that.
Like that's all this is mental masturbation. That's it. Okay.
Now, keep in mind that to a religious person, it would be seen as what they call a devotional or a meditation.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh no. And then he
and this
says
was
it's not about tree worship. He says I'm advocating the worship of God and respect for what God respects. Period. If somebody's worshiping a grove of trees, give me a chainsaw. I'll go take them down. What the crap?
he
This
got
is.
some Saint Patrick right there.
I mean. It's
There you go,
like
freeing
all
the.
of a sudden he starts trying to channel Saint Bunyan. I mean, what?
That's what Saint Patrick did. He cut down the tree.
It doesn't. It just.
It worked.
Yeah, it's an elaborate advertisement for a book. In all honesty, I would be interested to find out exactly how much he paid CBN to do this article.
It was a slow news day, man.
It's CBN. I it's like, well, if you make a sizable donation, we can put a plug in for you. That's what that seems like. I mean, and if I'm pretty sure if he invests a little bit more, that he'll pop up on the 700 Club when they start doing their book week thing again.
Yeah. Well, I like what you're saying about the Fulbright scholar. Like that's the equivalent of like if you just had a tagline on your channel and you're like, as watched by people more successful than you.
Right, exactly. It's like, okay, hey, I've already had someone on here that's more successful than me. Robert Price, probably more successful in what he's done than I may ever be. I mean, hey, but I mean,
YouTubers
like
like, oh, people better than me have watched this. I should watch. Maybe I'll be better than me then.
PBS Studios brought to you by viewers like you. I mean, it's just a this whole thing is just a whole lot of dumb in Times New Roman font.
I think
It,
it's a lot of
yeah,
not
it's
important
Times New Roman. It's a lot of what?
not important in Comic Sans font.
Yeah, I mean, no, yes, I think this would be better in Comic Sans. I mean, it would at least communicate the level of seriousness you should actually ascribe to this.
Words that have never been spoken by anyone in the history of digital print. You know, this would
Yeah,
be better in Comic Sans.
yeah. I mean, this is just, uh, I don't know. This kind of crap annoys me. In all honesty, I mean, but there again, this is CBN, so
Them's my peeps.
I mean, at least CBN, at least to my knowledge, are not anti-vax. So I gotta give that props at least.
By the way, that is that's blown up. Did you see the recent results or the recent stuff from this year? That might be a future episode, but
Oh, about the measles outbreaks,
yeah, we were
a
what was
disease
it?
we have all but eradicated, and that we had eradicated in this country is now back because of this group of inconvenient nut jobs.
We almost lost our title as being measles free by about 7 to 10 days because of how they do the statistics. Because it can't be someone that caught it in another country and brought it back. It has to be someone who caught it in America
Yeah.
and then kept it for like 10 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And we were almost to that point.
And then the person's symptoms broke.
That was New York, by the way. That wasn't anyone in the Bible Belt. That
Yeah,
was New York.
no, it's just anti-vaxxers piss me off almost as much as flat. No, they piss me off more than flat earthers do. At least what flat earthers are doing don't get people killed.
It just sells airline tickets.
And hey, capitalism. I'm all for it. I mean, it's just those people in general just annoy the crap out of me. I mean, flat earthers are an annoyance that every once in a while I'll jump on and see something just egregiously stupid and
I
or
want a
well,
fictional fly.
in fact, instead of egregiously stupid, I'm going to use an analogy that I learned in my Texas Penal Code class uh, a couple of semesters ago, and we were talking about the different levels. You have intent. You have the different levels of intent. You have intentionally, knowingly, recklessly, and with criminal negligence. And with criminal negligence was basically aggravated dumbass.
Yeah.
That's that's flat earthism. That's just aggravated dumbass. Whereas like I honestly think that if a person is deliberately not vaccinating their child, that should be classified as child abuse. And I'm glad that we have a system set up where it's like, oh, you want to attend a public school, but your child's not vaccinated, and they don't have a compromised immune system that would not allow them to be vaccinated. Well, vaccinate your crotch goblin, or they don't get to attend school.
Come to think of it, do you think that's what we got the dislike for last week was the anti-vax? Because we talked a little bit about it.
I don't know, but I'm content to crap all over anti-vaxxer like rhetoric all day long. I mean, there's someone here on YouTube that does it way better than I could probably ever hope to, and that's Jeff Holiday, because he makes anti-vaxxing like his big thing. Like he went so far as to he does full review breakdowns, like multi-part breakdowns and reviews of he did Vaxxed, and he's also working on Vaxxed 2 now.
Hmm.
And his show for that one was called Inoculating Against Vaxxed, which I actually kind of like the title. He also does a lot of other goofy shit on there, and it's hilarious. If you ever get the opportunity to check out his Hemlock Moonwolf videos, they're hilarious, and I promise you, you will be laughing pretty much the entire time, because it's his way of bringing up stuff and talking about things that are just so absurd, that are so stupid that they don't warrant serious analysis. And so he does it through the guise of this character that he created called Hemlock Moonwolf.
That sounds
He's like some level 33 spiritual ascended guru or something like that. It's friggin' hilarious. He even goes so far as to talk about that nut job that called himself Stephen Christ.
I don't remember that. I
Oh
think I
man,
have, but I don't
he
remember.
made it in the news twice. Like right now, he's locked up in a close care mental health facility because he this is he has threatened to assassinate public officials twice in the last 10 years.
Hmm.
Like in 2009, he publicly on YouTube threatened to assassinate Barack Obama. And then more recently, right before he was picked up and put in a mental health facility again, um, went on YouTube saying that the Secret Service are called secret because they work for him apparently, and not for the U.S. government, and that they would deliver Donald Trump to Stephen Christ, and he would determine whether or not he would need to chop off Donald Trump's head. Like he actually talked about decapitating Donald Trump, and that he was going to do it.
Well, what's the point in letting the secret out of the bag? If the Secret Service secretly works for you, now the whole
And
world
then
knows.
you air that on YouTube. Like
Come
what
on, man. You got
crap,
to do
man?
better.
Say what?
You've got to do better. You can't.
You
You
really
can't just
do. You really
secret
do.
out.
No, here's the crazy part. He's got followers. Two,
Not
two
I,
like
but he has.
no, like legit followers, like two that he is referred to as his disciple, his olive branches, so to speak, to the point where, like at one point, Stephen had like drawn up this really elaborate seal that would that he claimed that the mark of the beast referred to in Revelation was not a sign of that you were going to hell. Was that was a symbol of protection, and that they need to put his seal uh, on them to be protected from the coming slaughter or whatever nonsense. And these two chuckleheads, I kid you not, instead of like this little like baseball, softball flattened size uh seal, which is what was originally drawn. No, they got this big giant monstrosity tattooed on their chests, like going from about 4 inches above the belly button to their collarbone, and then like from nip to nip. Like this thing is huge. They got these two big fuck off tattoos. It's it's horrible, man. Like, in fact, you know what? You've got to see the idiocy for yourself. Like, I'm not even joking. But yeah, like you've just got to see this. I'm pulling it up now. Give me just a moment. Uh, everybody,
Meanwhile,
this is from Jeff Holiday's video. So I'm just gonna show the screen of it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. That
just why? Why would you get
those
that?
great big fuck off tattoos, and like that's
They low key look like they got the tattoos in exchange for a couple of rocks.
I mean, I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, like the stupid runs deep with this one, man. The stupid runs deep. I'm serious. You need to go watch the Healing with Hemlock playlist because you will laugh. Like, it's a nonstop laugh riot, and there are, I don't know how many videos of it now. There's like 8 or 9, maybe. He even goes after Gwyneth Paltrow's goop. Um, yeah, he goes after that. Um, like even to the point where at the end of the video is like does this nonsense promo for his version of it that he just calls slop stank or whatever the hell it is. Um, yeah, it's oh man, it's just so also does Sunfruit Dan, a guy who hello Mr. Cat or Miss
It's
Cat.
Miss Cat.
Miss Cat, okay. I couldn't tell if that collar was pink or orange.
I can't either, and I'm here. Hank.
um, what was the other one? Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop, Stephen Christ, Sunfruit Dan, guy who thought turpentine enemas were a good thing.
That sounds deadly.
Yeah, no, this dude made videos of like, to what proportions should you mix pure gum spirit turpentine with cornstarch to create a proper mucilage?
Ew.
Yeah. Or oh no, it's even better, talking about like the same dude, Sunfruit Dan, was big into what he called uropathy for a while. Or urine therapy. Yeah.
I've actually heard somebody talking about that a while back.
Yeah, he was a pee drinker.
Yep. It happens to the best of us.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, Isaac Newton drank mercury.
Bear Grylls does it on a regular basis.
True, but not for its supposed healing properties.
He seems pretty healthy to me. Can't argue with them facts.
Yeah, and then when you see the behind the scenes stuff, or where they show photo shoots or things like that, where they're out in the middle of nowhere, but there's like this full table spread meal for him to sit down and eat at in between shots.
So
So
it also increases your intelligence.
say what?
It also increases your intelligence because you can plan.
But
You could get a full table spread, catered food in the middle of nowhere. I think not.
say what?
Do you think you could get a full catered spread in the middle of nowhere?
Yes, I really think he could, because he's Bear Grylls. I think that it would be brought along with them, obviously.
I think he manifested that just like that. He's like, I know what I'm doing. Let
So
me drink my
so
urine.
so Bear Grylls is the second coming of Christ.
No, he's a wizard that drinks his urine.
So he's a piss wizard.
Yes. It's such a rare find that not even Tolkien dare write about it.
I'm kind of glad Tolkien wouldn't write about that. Uh,
We got the white, the brown, the gray,
other, I guess he's
but
the
we got
yellow.
the yellow wizard. You ever think about that? There's a reason why.
Okay, but what about the red or the blue wizard?
I thought there was a red and a blue wizard.
I don't know. There might have been. The only ones that really get referenced in the books, to my knowledge, were Gandalf Gray and White, Saruman the White, and Radagast the Brown.
Yeah.
Those are the only ones that I ever remember having like actual names. And I'm generally pretty good about the character names. Like one character I remember the name of that was,
Wizard.
say what?
Bear Grylls the yellow wizard, right there.
Ugh, no, I don't think I can ship that. Uh, but no, like I'm pretty good at remembering the names of some of like the weird off characters in that book. Like, for instance, when you look at the movie for the Fellowship of the Ring, and they have Arwen saving Frodo, riding him across the river, the the river or whatever.
Do we still need these two guys up if we're going to talk about Lord of the Rings?
I mean, that looks like some Mordor shit right there, dude.
Like something that the orcs would carve on their chest before battle.
Yeah, something like that, or the one stupid to rule them all.
These are if the orcs were Jay and Silent Bob.
No, no, I don't even think Jay and Silent Bob are that dumb.
But if they were orked out.
Maybe, maybe it'll be a giant movie symbol, since that's like the running gag, the golden calf of the Clerks verse. Because supposedly, I think Kevin Smith confirmed that Dogma was like some kind of like high fever dream or whatever that Jay and Silent Bob had in between Clerks movies or something like that.
Oh, that's funny.
I mean, it would make sense as much as those two supposedly smoked as characters. But yeah, oh, it
The
was so
continuity.
dumb. Yeah, oh yeah, the continuity, of course, got to preserve the continuity. Although having George Carlin as Cardinal Glick, the Buddy Christ, that was
Yeah.
great. I want one of those. Like I want to get like a the life size like resin cast versions of that.
I know they have like the little ones that you can put on your dashboard.
Yeah, but it's just I want like a big one, like a little like a statue of it, like what they had in the movie. That was hilarious.
So I guess we're getting close to about the point where we start to wrap this up. So
Yeah,
what are our
looks
big
like it. Say what?
what are our big takeaways from today?
Big
I know we
takeaways.
didn't talk about it, but I do want to mention that there's been a lot of violence going on in Nigeria against Christians. So if anyone wants to like look that up,
Okay.
go ahead. There's been terrorist organizations that have been attacking them in the week of Christmas.
Hmm.
It's really upsetting. Um, but please educate yourself on a lot of the things that are going on. In the past, I talked about what's going on to the Uyghurs and what's going on in India with their citizenship amendment.
Yeah.
But a lot of violence against religious groups going on around the world.
Yeah. Not everybody can enjoy the freedoms of a First Amendment and Establishment Clause. Uh, but yeah, no. As far as main takeaways that I see here is that aside from a poor choice of final sentence from Meta, that was a pretty good article talking about essentially a blatant violation of the Establishment Clause by an Alabama high school.
Yeah.
Um, the
Roll
two
Tide.
say what?
Roll Tide.
Yeah, roll a tide of lawyers over your school district. I mean, if they keep doing that crap, that's exactly what's going to happen because FFRF doesn't play around. They are as gung ho as ACLU on a lot of things. But I'm sorry, I kind of respect them for it. Like even when I was a believer, I was okay with them. I was okay with organizations like that going after schools for promoting like specific prayer and stuff like that in their schools because yeah, it was a violation of the First Amendment, and until that was changed, that shouldn't be done. If you're going to do something, go about the legal and correct way. Uh, but anyway, we learned that. Um, well, I'm not going to say we learned. I'm saying we just continue to confirm uh, and find supporting evidence for the hypothesis that CBN just shills advertisement for crappy books for money.
Seems legit.
Hey, you
That
heard it here
article.
first, people. I got an evangelical to agree that CBN are shills that are just in it for the money.
That article seems like it. Yeah, I
It's
would
it's it's
say.
it's it's, it's pretty damning, if you will.
I don't think he was writing a book of theology there, where it's actually like this new revelation of.
Oh, I don't know, but apparently it convinced a double PhD Fulbright scholar who just so happens to be a tree expert that miraculously doesn't have a name but has all these credentials. That was somehow convinced by a punny titled book written by a claimed former atheist who's an ER doc.
Do you have a feeling that like he went up to him on Thanksgiving and was like, "Hey man, can you read my book and tell me what you think?" And then like a week later, like, "So what'd you think?" And he's like, "I'm not reading this." Oh man, it was great. Like, yeah, I thought it was awesome.
Right? And so it's like, I got a convert. God, it's. I
And it's
mean,
like,
I swear that CBN trades in conversion points the way the modern far left trades in oppression points.
I can see that. One of the things that I did not like about it, I don't know if CBN and TBN are the same thing or not, but one of the things I did not like is when they were always selling like religious artifacts. It was like if you
Oh
donate
yeah.
you'll get a vial of sand from the Dead Sea beach,
Right.
or like here's some water from the Dead Sea. These are actual chips of bark off of trees that are probably what Christ was hung on. And it's like, okay, this is very similar to like when the church was selling artifacts in the 14th century, and they're like,
Hmm.
this is the pinky bone of the Saint Peter.
Right.
Notice how it's upside down in the vial.
So going through and looking at a few things. So CBN apparently is no longer technically a network. It's actually just a production company that runs a series of syndicated programs.
Mm-hmm.
But they air on stations that are owned by other people, mostly TBN. So that's where the the link is, as far as that goes, is that Christian Broadcasting Network. They're not actually a network. They just produce shows that air on Trinity Broadcasting Network.
Okay.
And so, yeah. Well, actually, I don't know. Let's see. There's a profile or bio page for Pat Robertson on tbn.org. So I'm going to look at this one. Da, 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 da. No, it just says that his contact info is through CBN. Says founder of CBN in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and Operation Blessing, and International Relief and Development Outreach. Hosts the long-running news and talk program 700 Club, which airs daily on TBN. So yeah, no, it looks like it's just their affiliate organizations, but they're not the same. But TBN runs 5 different networks here in the United States. Uh, Hillsong Channel, Juice TV, JUCE TV, Smile of a Child TV, and uh, yeah, their Spanish version is called TBN Salsa. But apparently they have a presence in Uganda. Lighthouse Television Uganda is theirs. So yeah, TBN is certainly spread far and wide. But yeah, no, that's the primary takeaway is that CBN are shills. Meta needs to worry more about forging inroads, about convincing people rather than just you know calling out random stuff. And I think the National Guard was right for kicking those two guys out. If white supremacy has become more of a problem because it's become a little bit more mainstream for a lot of people. Um, and it's an issue that has to be dealt with. It's not really something that can be avoided. I mean, can you say that it's still not that big of a deal in comparison to other hate groups? Okay, maybe, but that doesn't mean it doesn't need to be addressed. And I
Any kind
think
of group has an allegiance to that group over the Constitution, and you just can't have someone in the military who the Constitution is their
no,
second
no,
priority.
right, and that's why they're still having like a pretty big gang problem in the military still.
Yeah.
I mean, because you have a lot of gang members that will leave the gang, quote unquote, for a short period of time to join the military for a cycle to gain some training, to gain some insight and knowledge, and then leave the military and bring it back to the gang,
Yeah.
which is the problem in and of itself. And so I think we might need to be doing a little bit better as far as vetting um, the reasons behind why a person is trying to join the military
And that
and not
makes no sense either because, like, once you join the military, you should have enough work experience and skills training and also career paths open for you that there would be no reason to go back to the gang.
Yeah,
Like, what offering you at that point?
loyalty and family. For a lot of people, a gang is all they've ever known growing up, and that's the kind of loyalty that you can't buy, that you can't teach someone out of. That's something that's followed to a similar degree that religious fervor is followed.
If you can't buy the kind of loyalty of family, then evidently people have stronger families than I have.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that from my own perspective as far as that goes. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, at this point in time, we've run for almost 2 hours now. Our shows are slowly but surely getting longer and longer. I'm okay with that as long as you are, or we can try
Yeah,
and start cutting them back down. Say what?
save the soul of America.
All right. Well, everybody check out Harry's YouTube channel. He currently only has one video, so start fixing that, Harry. Everybody else, please like, comment, and subscribe.
On my Instagram, I got new pictures of food up there. I went to Genghis Grill, and that was tasty.
Oh yeah. Okay. So go follow him on Instagram. I'll get a link and post in the description later on. I'll have to get him to send me one. Also, aside from a couple of the offshoot articles, links for the two primary articles, the CBN article and the one from Friendly Atheist, both of those are linked in the description below. If you would like to go and read those in their entirety, I think we covered all the main topics within them. But if there's something you feel we didn't cover, please look at it, read it, and comment below what you think we should have also covered about them. Other than that, thank you again for tuning in. Have a great day, everybody.